make better judgments in life. So we in the Moorish Science Temple of America, we don't deal in emotions, how you feel, as much as we deal in the fact of the matter. And that's what helps us to make better decisions in our lives. Our prophet and leader, we call S.G.S our prophet, says that thinking is an attribute of the soul. It's an action, not its essence. And many of us are not thinking, reasoning, understanding. So to activate that means that you have to gather the facts in to make formidable decisions, because reason is what we use to maintain our dominion. You know what I mean? Thank you, Professor. I'm glad to be here. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. You're very welcome. I understand the timeline the professor explained to me that you're on, but there's so much information that it would probably take more than an hour to share this with you. So we're going to do the 1900s, 1913, 27, 34. We're going to cover all of that as much as the time allows us to do that. And then, can you ask questions? Okay. You'll be encouraged to ask questions.
Take the notes so you can ask questions.
I am a student of S.G.S. I have been a student of his since 1978 graduating. I grew up in a household, just to tell you a little bit about myself. My father was what we call regular. That means he did regular things according to what our people did. He worked every day, supported his family. My mother was a Jehovah's Witness. I started out in the Jehovah's Witness religion. That was the only religion I knew. I never went to church. One time my father sent us just so we could see what it was like. And it was, to us, it was a disaster because we didn't know that. I was in theocratic ministry school at the age of 12. I began to speak publicly. We were trained by some of the elders. In 1978, I think I was 27 years old, I met a phenomenal man who changed my life. Graduated from Malcolm X College in 1975, transferred to the University of Arkansas in Pine Bluff, and there I began to take yoga classes, open up some, a little bit more into other thoughts. And I began to fast. I was fasting several days, praying every day for the religion of my forefathers, because I was confused what I was supposed to be, what I was supposed to be doing. Didn't want to be a Jehovah's Witness no more, because all the talk was that the world was going to end. And I said, I just started living. Why should it end now? I want to live. And lo and behold, I saw a friend of mine. I was raised in Morgan Park, raised in Moorish. And he says, my mother said that your mother called her and said that you were one of those Muslims. I says, no, I'm looking into Islam. He says, well, I have the Quran at my house, the holy book for the Muslims. I says, oh? He says, yeah. I says, how does it look, George? He says, oh, it's a real big, thick book. No, he says, a real thin book. He's talking about this. I said, you're all the way wrong. The Quran in Mecca is this thick. He says, come to my house. He lived in Hyde Park. He was a decorator. I went over there. And he brought out this. I said, George, this is ridiculous. I happen to know what it is. I got it at home. He says, take it and read it and bring it back. When I opened this up and I saw the picture of this man, this is a photo of S.G.S. We're going to talk about him extensively in the timeline. I'm going real fast. Then I read chapter 1, called The Creation and the Fall of Man. Now, if anybody has any experience with Jehovah's Witnesses, they train you to be a scholar. They train you to find the chapters, to know your Bible, the New World Translation. So I had become so articulate in that, my mother would call me to find a certain verse or a chapter. Okay, here it is right here, Hosea. The book of Obadiah, here it is right here. And having been a scholar and looking at all these things, when I read this chapter 1, it turned my understanding around about the book of Genesis. I said, so whoa, This is what really occurred when man was formed in flesh. Then became a love affair with me and Noble. Because my mother said, you must be aware of false prophets, son. And in my mind, I said, this man is a false prophet. And I'm going to prove it. The more I dug and the more I tried to prove, the deeper in love I fell deeper in love with his philosophy and his actual facts. Then he began to say that we are not Negro, black, or colored. And I thought he was crazy. Just like I thought Tom was crazy when he approached me at my job and says that he didn't eat meat. I says, are you crazy? Meat is good. Pot roast, round steak, beat it up and gravy it up. He says, no, you're way off, you know. You need to leave that alone. But to me, it was absurd. I studied Noble, and I couldn't find anything wrong with what he said and the information he gave. In fact, I got so deeper into our history that we lectured all around the world. I've been to the west coast of Africa 5 times. I've been to China, to Turkey. I've been just about all over the world talking about Noble Drew Ali. Moorish history goes back long, long ago, and the names interchange. The ancient Moabites were once called Kemet, once called Egyptians, once called Phoenicians. The name through centuries has changed and developed, but more stayed with us and is with us today. In fact, he taught us that the Moorish were the founders of the holy city of Mecca, the ancient Moabites. How many know that Arabia has not always been the name of that continent? Raise your hand. When we talk about Arabia, we're talking about that peninsula that's right here. Right here. This is a peninsula, y'all know that. This is called Saudi Arabia. Before it was called Saudi Arabia, it was called Arabia. But before it was called Arabia, it was called Canaan. In fact, if you go there today and ask the local people who live there, they will tell you they're Canaanites. So the first inhabitants of Africa was Ham and Cush that came from this land, crossed here, and began to populate northeast and northwest Africa. Same family. It's just like Chisholm Hill may have 12 boys named Chisholm Hill. I may have 12 girls with Braswell. Hey, they intermarry. The names may change, but it's the same family. And that's how we have to look at each other. It's the same family. We'll talk about, we're going to go way up now to Chicago, Illinois. We're going to go to I just want to go through that briefly. We're going to go to let's go to 1865. Then we're going to come up to the 1900s. What was so significant that happened in 1865 that sort of like changed our lives?
Abolishment of slavery.
Good. Who else said something?
Abolishment of slavery.
Very good. When this occurred in 1865, according to the what amendment? 13th Amendment. 13th Amendment. France is one of the nations that said, how can you let these people go without giving them some land to cultivate, without giving them some natural resources so they can chart their own destiny? Because the fact of the matter is, here is 1865, they say that slavery is abolished. Many of our people had nowhere to go. So there were people going around to plantations, hey, we free, you don't have to be up on the master's land. What they did was they started walking in the woods and the forests, sleeping in the trees, hunting for any kind of food they could get, sleeping on the under the leaves and whatnot, and looking for the ones that were sold down the river before. Walking in people's faces. You be brother Leonard, you be sister Mary. It was chaos. So according to John P. Logan, who wrote the book The Great Conspiracy, which I know you're aware of, he said that that was a conspiracy because the 13th Amendment had 20 sections. And one of the sections on the 13th Amendment said, the 20 sections rather, said that everyone who was free deserved what? Supposed to get what? There you go. They said, well, who's going to dispense it? Or we'll put the Freedmen's Bureau, like the FBI, Bureau of FBI. We'll put that federal institution together, and they will do it. Not so. They turned into an agency that would give blankets to the people and food, but bypass what happened to the the Naturalization Act of 1870, which I know they're aware of, right? 1870, 5 years later, because it took them that long. The Naturalization Act of 1870 said anybody, they described what was a free white person. Because a lot of those Europeans, let me tell you now, we call so-called white people Europeans. We don't call them white, and I'll tell you why. You may want to take that note and ask that question later. We knew that they didn't know who they were. And when I say that, they didn't know that they were from Ireland, England, Poland. They had lost all of that. Some of them today are called hillbillies. They don't know. So he said, we're going to just put a blanket and call them free white persons. And at the same time, they says anybody who ever called himself black are now eligible for citizenship. Check the word, eligible. That we never took advantage of that eligibility as a people. Because remember now, to enslave a person, you got to get them to change their name, to change their identity, so you could enslave them and nobody else is going to take up for them. You dig it? Can I use slide, Professor? So that's what they did. They got our people to say, "Oh, aren't you black?" Yeah, I'm black. But knowing there's no black country anywhere in the world that would say, we're going to bring our army over and take our black people back. Even in Africa, you got Egypt, Libya, you got Nigeria.
Anytime you touch that, brother.
Okay, all right. Thanks for telling me. Oh, I got it on my own. Thank you. Okay. All of these countries, and even anywhere in the world, you never will see a land called black land with a black flag and say, this is our black constitution, which is some of the dynamics that Noble Drew Ali taught us. You can ask that question later if you like. So they got us to accept that. And consequently, they kept putting our people as captives of a religious war that started from 1480 to 1492. You can ask about that later. This is so I can get more into the timeline that the professor asked me to get into. So, we never took advantage of that eligibility to proclaim our nationality again as Moors. Anybody ever seen this book? I know this is one of your favorites, right?
I like Chancellor.
You know, Chancellor was blind. 16 years it took him to write this book. Oh, really? You know it took him 16 years. This book, let's go to page, just to bring my point, and I'll pass this around if y'all want to see it. This is my third copy, before the other one's out. Page 202. I believe it's 202, the fourth paragraph down. Let me confirm that. 207. But it is the fourth paragraph down. It says, now let me just say this again. Chancellor Wood is a brilliant man. Now he does an excellent job on timelines in early pre-American history about our people. And when I was in the west coast of Africa, all those times, I had the pleasure of actually seeing these places that he talked about, walking the jungle and walking the areas that he talked about. But he says here, now again, just who were the Moors? The answer is very easy. The original Moors, like the original Egyptians, were BLACK Africans, or Africans. As amalgamation became more and more widespread, only the Berbers, Arabs, and colors in the Moroccan territories and ask me about the Moroccan territories later, were called Moors, while the darkest and black-skinned Africans were called black Moors. That's a word in your dictionary. You may want to copy that and ask me about that later. But he says here, eventually black was dropped from blackamoor in North Africa and Morocco in particular. All Muslim Arabs, mixed breeds, and Berbers were readily regarded as Moors. Here is the kicker. The African blacks, having even this name taken from them, must contend for recognition as Moors. And the nationality we were supposed to proclaim back again in 1870 was Moorish. But they sidestepped it. Not until 1913, that's where we at now, were we able to get that nationality back that was taken away from us. And I was one of them. He was one of them. He was one of them. Elijah Poole-Bey was one of them, known as Elijah Muhammad, good brother, who said, we want our nationality back that was taken away from us, and proclaim the nationality of Moorish American, which means descent of Moroccan and born in America.
Go slow.
Go slow.
And repeat. Go slow. Teach, brother. Teach.
So now, here's the timeline. 1870, 1913. That's how long it took us to wake up as a people and get back that we lost, which was our identity, our free national name. And we have that right. Because if the country of the United States of America requires those people that come from other countries to proclaim their nationality, it should be right for us too. Don't you know that anybody that comes from Poland over here, they have to proclaim Polish American? Anybody that comes from Italy, when they come over here, they have to proclaim Italian American? Anybody that comes from Greece that come over here, they must proclaim Greece American. Now, when all these three groups get together, they're not going to call each other white. And if you stand around and you're here, they'll say, oh, that Polish guy there, that Italian guy there. But they will not say white to each other. Because white, too, is not a nationality. It is an adjective. For all you educated college students, I know you know the difference between a noun and an adjective. Right? Those that don't say right, they don't know. No, just joking. I do believe that levity is necessary. So, here comes a little small man with a flaming red face. Born in North Carolina, 1886, goes to Newark, New Jersey in 1913. Starts the Moorish Science Temple of America there. Then he comes to Chicago in 1925. And this is what people call the Roaring
20s.
20s. That means that it was just roaring. Finance was here, economy was good, industrial revolution had taken a good hold in the economy, you know, to the point that there was jobs, even for people who wasn't educated. Chicago was bustling. Chicago has the most intricate railroad system in the nation. You know why? Because of meat, cattle, the stockyards. You can go in any remote neighborhood and see some railroad tracks somewhere because it took the railroad to carry that heavy meat. So we became so industrialized, not only with butchering and selling meat, other things we were into too, to create jobs for all of our people. And it was so good, like in the days of Jean-Baptiste du Saint-Maurice, when he, as a Moor, got to where the Tribune Tower, where the Tribune is on the Chicago River, He called for the rest of his people. Hey, y'all, it's good up here. Just like we did. Some of our people came from Mississippi. How many people here know that people came from Mississippi? Raise your hand. Well, that's what happened. Arkansas. What part?
Y'all know Arkansas.
Oh, man, that's the Mississippi. Okay. Alabama. Right. They call for the rest of the people. Hey, there's plenty of jobs up here. It's nice. They got toilets and no outhouses. They got all the food you can eat. Come on up here, sister and brother. And they came, the Great Migration. The 1900s in Chicago, they came. And as they came, there were all kinds of things available to them. One thing that was available to them was vice. Vice was strong in Chicago amongst the economic growth. And who was controlling the vice? One man whose mother was one of the nurses for Abraham Lincoln when he got shot. And you don't hear a lot about him. But these are some of the people who surrounded Noble Drew Ali when he came to Chicago to support his program. His name was Mushmouth Johnson. You familiar with him? Mushmouth Johnson in those days would be considered a multi-billionaire. He controlled all of them. How? Through gambling and policy numbers. Gambling, policy numbers, and courtesans. Prostitution. That's the polite word for prostitution, right? Instead of saying she's a prostitute, they would say, oh, or he. Right. He or she is a courtesan. So, later on we learned that Mushmouth and his people, all of them who were gathered let's say, from Cermak all the way down to 31st Street in Indiana, all that area was theirs. Jack Johnson was a part of it. Oscar the Priest was a part of it. Oscar the Priest was also a follower of Noble Drew Ali. You may want to write the question of who all followed him that you know is famous today. And we'll run the list down to you and can prove it. Anyway, these people came for this, but Ida B. West was one of the people who said, well, all these people come, they need clinical screening, they need this, they need that, they need housing. And she was one of the very few people who provided that. Some people said, oh, they need education. They're coming from the South, they don't have all education. One lady who started this, you never hear her name a lot, her name was Vivian Thurston. You recall her, Professor?
Yes, sir.
Vivian Thurston. She was the one who educated and brought Carter G. Woodson to the forefront. She was a librarian, and guess what else? Her family was one of the only families that could show a direct connection to Jean-Baptiste Dussable Maurice. And she was the librarian for Hall Library on, I think that's Michigan, 40-something Michigan. And all these people were providing these social services to our people. But was none of them providing a sense of identity to them. This.
When Matisse, you wait till you write those down, and we get those at the end. That's the idea of the question you're asking. Just write it down, Mr. Clerk.
Until he came. Let's take a good look at this man here. The professor was saying that they tried to write him out in history. They did. They did. And we try to keep him alive.
Islam.
Because it's important that you remember this man. He said those social services are good, but they need identity. He also said that we as a people had some issues that we needed to tend to. He said some of the problems amongst our people were social and economic. We need to know how to form a society that we can demonstrate some kind of moral character to each other. But more importantly, we needed economics. We needed to have some kind of economic security to ensure our prosperity would grow and unfold as the bud and grows to show the flower. You know, prosperity is your children, right? Not prosperity. It's ongoing. In other words, we need to have businesses like any other free national group that we can pass on to our children. Do you know many of our people who pass, they don't leave them nothing. My father was one of those people who says, we're going to break them all. When my father passed, none of us knew he had that much money. And he put it all in CD accounts for us. He says, when I pass, this is your money. Make sure you start a business and do something good. So we need economic security means that we form our own businesses. A job is good as long as it takes for you to get your business. Because when you get your business, the sky's the limit how much money you're going to make. If you got a job, you may get a cost of living raise. Here's your cost of living raise right here. You're going to get another for 2 years. That's based on, but he get the bulk of the money. Anyway, I don't want to do too much of that. He said we needed economic security. Then he went further to tell our people, whereas we get this identity, in a profound sense, we have a problem that is moral and spiritual. Let's address that too. So as a people, we needed all of that comes along with your identity. We needed social, handle our social situation, our economic situation, our moral and our spiritual obligations to each other. And this is what he was teaching. So he said, we need to know about our nationality and our divine creed. Because let's face it, the more knowledge you have, the more powerful you are. Especially when you have knowledge of yourself. Will inspire you to do for yourself. And that's what the program he brought to our people. Now many of them start coming more. Mushmouth's people, Robert Mott's people, who started the Peking House. There's another big establishment. They were so powerful then that the Chinese had their opium dens on Cermak, and the Irish policemen, when they needed some extra money, would always come in and say, you smoking blow, you smoking opium, pay us. I said, okay, yeah, man. It got so fast that they went to Mushmouth and Bob Mott and said, hey, man, they're killing us. And he had so many policemen in his camp that they started paying him protection money so they could smoke their opium and be quiet. The police would leave them alone. And the story's going on, but these were very powerful underground men. They call them race men. And race men meant that you was all about the business of your people. That movie they made with Cecily Tyson. Huh? The star in that movie was John Toles-Bay, who was also a member, a writer. He was one of the stars. He was playing the part of Valley, the one who got cut. That's John Toles-Bay. Very good brother, very close brother of mine. But anyway, that was based off of the truth. Because what they started in Chicago went to New York. In fact, they were all related. Then came the Jones brothers. You know the Jones brothers, who had so much property. They had property in Mexico. They had property in Havana. They had property everywhere. They had so much money through policy that it was incredible. They were multi-billionaires. Sam Giacomo came to Chicago to see them. And then he says, I didn't know that Negroes lived like this. All the furniture they had was handmade and frames, so forth and so on. I don't know if it's too far. But anyway, 1925, our people began to hear the words of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, and they started coming in droves, trying to get their nationality and proclaim it, and trying to get an understanding of our creed. And I want to tell you what the Prophet Noble Drew Ali said our creed was, and is to this very day. Irregardless of where you have heard it from, because now it has spread so many places that some people look at it, oh, that's a game. No, it is not. Our first word to our creed is love. You got to learn how to love yourself and love God's creations. You got to learn how to do that. You got to learn how to love yourself, no matter how big your lips is, how nappy your hair is, how dark you are, how light you are. You got to love you. You got to love you because you don't need a middleman to reach God. You don't have to look into the sky to see him. He's everywhere. So you got to love that part about yourself. Truth is the second principle. You got to be truthful with yourself and all the people you deal with. We don't believe, oh, beat that guy there or that woman there, never give a sucker even break. We don't believe in that. That is against our moral fiber, as we are the children of one Father provided for by his care. Peace. You got to learn to live in peace with yourself and with all the creations that the Father God has put on earth for us. You got to live in peace. Freedom. You have to recognize that you have the free mind to control your whole mind. For example, you can't say, oh, she made me mad. You gave her permission? When people say, when people come to me and they say, I made you mad, then you say, I'm in charge of me. When did I tell you you can make me mad? You ain't in my head. I don't give you permission to make me mad. Freedom to search for the truth. Freedom to realize that you are capable of getting things yourself. Independent thinking, like the professor is providing you today, and from the first time I met him, he encourages independent thinking. That means freedom of thought. You know, if you don't exercise your freedom of thought, the search for truth is meaningless to any of us. And justice. Be just. Be fair with yourself. Be fair with everybody you come into contact with. You know, even in a relationship between man and woman, you don't want to hear the woman always say, oh, you're going to get yours one day. And they mean, y'all better watch when she say that. They're the first one to say something like that. Oh, you going to get yours one day. And you get it. I've been married for 41 years to the same woman. And to me, it seemed like it was yesterday I just met her. I'm in love. Because she has never told me, you're going to get yours one day. Because I do what she say. So, justice, you want to be fair. So, the principles I just described was love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. 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 That's one of our chants. And what we use is what the brother has around his neck is called zikr beads. And there are 100 on the beads. So to be in more harmony with ourselves, we start out by saying God's name 100 times, and then we go love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice in our minds. So it helps us to get more powers of meditation, if you will. So the prophet Noah was talking about that. He was talking about those principles that we should get. It's like a battleground for a nation that didn't know that they was a nation. And he began to give us information that we had lost because of slavery. For example, he began to tell us that we need to know about the 18 years of Jesus' life that's missing from your Holy Bible. That's right. There are 18 years in your Bible about Jesus' life that's not there.
Yes, sir.
And if you look in your Bible, you hear about Jesus when he was 12. And let me just pause for a minute to tell you, from a religious side, we love Jesus.
Islam?
If you love Jesus, raise your hand. Let's see who you are. See? I love that brother.
Islam.
Love him. But when I say I love him, I don't visualize the image that they have given us of him. Of some, yeah, with blue eyes and blonde hair on a good day.
Michael Angelo's cousin.
Michael Angelo's cousin.
That's right. That's right.
But that's part of the psychology of controlling your mind. Because my father told me, he was traveling to Arkansas with my mother years ago. And you know, when you go down Highway 57, it's dark at nighttime. Oh, how many people went down Highway 57? Isn't there something at nighttime? It's a monster, man. You be, man, I wish you off the road. There you go. Police pulled him over, highway police. Into my mom, they hold. I said, what you want? What I do? He says, look like to me, boy, you didn't have your lights on there. I said, I got my lights on there. He said, I'll tell you what there, boy. He pulled a picture out of his pocket. He said, You know who this here is, that boy? You know, that's Jesus' son. It was a picture of a European, long blonde hair, and a beard and blue eyes. That today we would call him a hippie. In fact, if he stood on 63rd and Halsted and didn't say nothing, just stood there, everybody would bring him their money. Oh, there's Jesus here. Take $1, Jesus. You said no. Some people would. They chased him out, Professor. He said, I'm going to go somewhere else, downtown on Madison, and stay. Maybe they'd be more sympathetic to me.
I don't know, brother. These folks might follow that white man.
That's hilarious. It is. Yeah, it is.
Father Mike.
Really? Incredible.
Incredible. You relax credibility.
Let's talk about that. Not now, another time.
Yes, sir.
Okay, very soon. My father said that when he held that picture I'm talking about, this here as Jesus, that he was holding it away where he could look at the picture and look at the state policeman and associate them being one and the same. Like, I got the power to arrest you and your wife and take you to jail on this dark road if you don't recognize who I am. Subliminal seduction. My father, being a very wise man, he saw the game. And he's explaining it to me. I wasn't there. He says, okay, I'm sorry I didn't have a light, so I got him on now. Can we go now? Like the wise person. There you go. But Noble Gerard didn't know we needed to know about marriage instructions. Because many of our men were dogging out the women. They were. They had so many brooms, they jumped so many times, it's incredible. I think I'll marry you tomorrow, gal, let's jump. I'm gonna marry you next week, let's jump. We had to have some structure in our social and moral fiber for our nation of people. So we put together what we call the marriage instructions for man and wife, what to do. And he put together instructions for young men who was looking for women to marry, to take her to our home, called Warnings for All Young Men. Then he put together instructions for our children, how to give our children and season their minds, how to give them knowledge and season their minds with the maxims of truth. Then he put together stuff about children obedience to their father. Then he put together instructions on unity, holy unity, all these things that build our moral fiber as a people. We don't believe in the 10 Commandments. That may be a shock to many of you who believe in that. Because we know what they call the 10 Commandments, where they really came from. Some of you know that too. Raise your hand if you know. They came from affirmations, right? From the Egyptian, what was that? The Egyptian
laws of Ma'at.
Ma'at. Prophet Moses. And Mount Sinai. And it was more than 10. It was quite a bit. And you know what an affirmation is? The affirmation is what you will not do. And it started out like, I will not kill. I will not steal. We believe the way they took those 10 Commandments today and brought it to our people was devised by the rich and the powerful to control the people. Do not kill. But when I want you, I put smallpox in those blankets and give it to you so you can kill it, so I can kill you. Do not steal. I'm here by manifest destiny. I want all your land. Y'all know what manifest destiny is, right? That's what he said. He said, I'm supposed to be here. And you ain't supposed to have this land. I don't care if you Cherokee, Chippewa, Blackfoot, get off this land. You know, there was a time in America that it was good to kill what they call Indians. Kill them Indians. They told, hey, there's an Indian, get him. You know, they had this famous guy called Kit Carson. You ever heard of him in cowboy history? Oh, there's Kit Carson. But the truth of the matter is his name was Kid Carson. Because what did he do? He killed so-called Indian children. He was a punk. A P-U-N-K over and over again. He had no courage to face a man that he would go gat to gat. Everybody know what gat is, right?
Yeah.
They would go, gat. He's fighting a defenseless child with no weapons, couldn't harm nobody, and pop him, pop, pop. That's how he got that title. We kind of strayed away, forgive me. There's so much to share with you. So he began to educate us. And this is the education we're getting now. And we're so inspired by S.G.S, who gave us all this information and taught us how to be ourselves, that this is what we talk about and try to be like. Some of the great people that he influenced was Elijah, Oscar the Priest, Daniel Hale Williams, many of the doctors of that day that practiced medicine and had to practice segregated medicine in different hospitals were followers. In fact, we have two big old photographs this long that we have identified most of them that are standing behind S.G.S. Membership in Chicago at that time in 1925 was 5,000 and counting. That means 5,000. Preachers in the churches did not like that. So they formed a conspiracy against S.G.S. Why? Because they said that he was taking money out of their churches. Many of them wasn't in the churches for the benefit of the people. They went to churches for the benefit, what'd you say, for the money? Yeah, that's true. So they started saying things about S.G.S. that wasn't true. One thing they said is that he was sleeping with young girls. And they charged him with rape. They said, go charge him with rape. And he beat that. They took one of the sisters from the temple and they said, go tell him that you slept in the bed and he raped you. She was 15 years old. I can say her name, but she's deceased now. She was one of my teachers. And they had, back in 1978, she redeemed herself, so to speak. We asked her, is that true? What we heard? She said the men came to her, suits on, and promised her clothes and money if she would help them bring S.G.S. down. Yes, it's a fact. Good news. So at the same time, you had the Jewish community over here from the University of Chicago, what is known now as IIT, say that we can't stop him, so we'll join him. One Jewish guy in particular, Julius Rosenwald, who built the Rosenwald building, 47 in Michigan.
Michigan.
What's significant about Julius Rosenwald during that time? We're talking about the 20s now. They call him the Jewish philanthropist. Everybody know what a philanthropist is? Tell us what a philanthropist is.
One who donates their money for upliftment.
Yes. Why did Julius Rosenwald do this? And where did he get the money from? First of all, he was the president of Sears. He had money. He traded all over the world. Remember now, Sears was a catalog that you could buy everything from back then. You could even buy a house, and they send you materials to put it together. He became so powerful, with so much influence, that he went to his friend, Marshall Field, and says, Marshall, I've been all over the world. Let's open up the museum. A museum, which is now called what?
Marshall Field Museum.
Field Museum of Natural History, Field Museum of Science and Industry, backed by the money of Julius Rosenwald. He had so much influence that he influenced all political appointees in the city of Chicago. We're talking about the 20s. We're in 25. We're in the early 25s now. He influenced them. But when he wanted to have fun, and his people came from around the world, like the Duchess of Norway, where did he take them to? He took them to the brothels that Mushlow and Bob Mox controlled. So in the terminology they say today, so they can get their freak on. That's what he did. And after they left, they went back to business as usual. Have you ever heard of the case of Linus Paul? Is it Paul? Well, these two Jewish boys killed this young boy just to see if they could get away with it.
private school called Margaret St. George, and the other two went to Lab, was it now Lab?
That's right.
That was a huge school.
It was bigger than O.J.
It was
Simpson.
Hyde Park, it was strictly in Hyde Park.
But let's look at the little boy they killed. Who was he? Oh, let me answer that. He was Julius Rosenwald's grandson. He was a grandson. So it was real big. Clarence Darrow, I think, was involved in that. He was one of the attorneys. It was big. So he had a butler. His butler was named Claude Green to him. But to the community, our community, he was known as Claude Green Bay. He was the first business manager of our organization, the Moorish Science Temple of America. And he had an office at the building they congregated in at 3140 South Indiana, known then as Unity Hall. Okay, this is right what they call the gap area. Julius used him to spy on Noble. Tell me everything he's doing. Come back to me. Well, it was difficult for him to do that because the prophet Noble had so many people around him. And he had guards, he had people that was in favor of him. He lived at 3603 Indiana, which is several blocks down from 3140 Indiana. And every day he would get in his Cadillac, he had 2 Cadillacs, and drive down to 3140. Mind you, Unity Hall, that whole area back there was all Jewish at one time. In fact, they called Indiana and Michigan Automobile Road. Where you see the Defender building they moved out of there was their playhouse. Unity Hall was one of them. So as our people kept populating the south side of Chicago, we needed more housing. But they had so many restrictions on housing that we could only live in one area. And that was called the Gap area. Now it's called what, Braswell? We can only live there. So that means that the Jews that were already there began to be pushed out to either Hyde Park or to the suburbs. That's where you see Pilgrim Baptist Church. If you go there today, you'll see a big Star of David up there under the brick. That was all their area. When they realized that we were coming so strong, they began to move out. And they donated 3140 to Oscar the Priest and his political people's movement in the early 20s to galvanize our political power, which is, at that time, we were competing with the people in Bridgeport, particularly the club known as the
Hamburg.
Hamburg Club.
Mandela.
That's Mandela. And they were using the Irish and Italians to come together politically to crush anybody, not just us, to get more political power. And they were strong-arming their people to vote through the church. Whereas though you had geniuses like Oscar the Priest, Peg Leg Dawson Bay, Richard Ross Bay, all of these people were powerful men in our community, heavily influenced by activism, nationalist activism, but didn't have a plan until they met this man, S.G.S. They got so heavy and so bright in nationalistic ideas that they formed the Democratic machine. Yeah, they did this. They were the originators of the Democratic machine. And they went so far as to convince the powers that be later on to build all those projects to control all those votes. You can't get a room in Robert Taylor if you ain't gonna vote for who we want. And they said, they made a truce. They said, well, what you want in return? He said, I want to control all the jobs in public school, Board of Education. That's what Dawson wanted. I want to control all the jobs in the post office. So if you didn't play ball with them, you didn't get a job. Earl Washington's father was one of those people who was involved in patronage jobs. That means that you can work a job to support your family, but when it comes time to elect, you got to get out there and get that vote, else you won't have no job. Until this, what's the law that came in for that? Shackman decree. Came in to stop that.
Excellent.
But anyway, this is how, if you really want to look at President Barack Obama being president, it's a result of this man. about it. But he fired them up. He got them into thinking of nationality. He got them into thinking in free national standards. He got them thinking about, since you know who you are, you can move like this. You can, and a lot of them kept it a secret. And today, if you sit down and interview any of them on a one-on-one, oh yeah, we're very familiar with Noble-Drawley. My grandfather was a follower. And I was telling you about the old folder we got in the temple. We have identified most of these people who are relatives today, very prominent people in politics. Remember now, Barack Obama's mentor was Emil Jones. And you need to look at Emil Jones. Emil Jones, Rice, the first commissioner of policemen in Chicago. Somebody else. All of them come out the Second Ward. All of them. In fact, it is said that Emil Jones comes from the family of the Jones Bays. They all knew, they all were fighting. They all referred to him as the old man, the man with the power. Yes. I'm kind of jumping around because I have so much I wanted to cover.
Maybe we ought to make a part two.
Yeah.
Come back.
Part two? Maybe we ought to make a part two. Yeah.
Yes.
Say your name first.
My name is Sade Smith.
Oh, beautiful name.
Thank you. I want to know, you wanted us to remind you why don't we call Europeans white? Why do they call them
Excellent question.
Europeans instead of white?
Romans, Greeks. Yeah. Here is what they call the Middle East, or what they call the Middle East. Palestine is somewhere over in here. Did you know, I gotta do it like this to bring you up to where it is. What you call an Arab store, I ain't going to the Arab store, that man is not an Arab. He speaks Arabian, but he is Palestinian. And he's from over here, and that's why he looked like he looked. Because these are Romans or Greeks who came down the coastline years ago when Jesus was here, over 2,000 years ago, and started amalgamating in with people that looked like you and I. There's a section in Palestine called Jericho. And all those people in Jericho look like him. In fact, you could go there today and say, hey brother, he's Palestinian, the real Palestinian. They look like you. They look like you. Same people. So what happened? As time progressed, amalgamation became their thing. Because you can't say that you mixed up, because there's only 3 blood types in the world.
Thank you.
A, B, and O. Either you A, or you A, B, or you O. And you ain't all 3 of them together at the same time. Scientists have revealed that each blood type is it has a geographical location in the world. For example, O is a universal blood group. We all know that, right? I mean, just about everybody's O. So scientists have done their work and found out most people with the O blood type is geographically known to inhabit the Americas. When we say the Americas, we mean North America, South America, Central America. Well, that's the Americas. In fact, they have the OAS, the Organization of American States, which Noble-Drawley went to the first conference. We'll talk about that later on. And most people that's associated with a blood type is known to come from West Asia. Africa is West Asia. India and China is East Asia. Come on now. It's mathematics. If you got East, then you must have what?
West.
You gotta have West. It's only the B group, 5% of the people with B group blood is known to be associated in the European area. Isn't that amazing? Again, yeah. We in the Moorish Science Temple of America only deal with facts,
Islam.
not how you feel. Well, I feel that I'm all mixed up, huh? So getting back to white, since we talked about 1870, the Naturalization Act of 1870, it was convenient for them to say that, even though they knew that it would have a subliminal effect on our people's consciousness. Because when you think about it, white does mean purity. Clean as the white-driven snow. White is clean. White clean sheets. Dressed all in white. Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
White folks was as pure as the driven snow and the hills of colors.
Right. But when you look at it at a scientific point of view, this is how we look at things, white is an adjective. People are not an adjective unless you put an article after the adjective to say a noun is coming. Is that right?
Yeah.
Like the brother described in the book, black a more. A is the article to say, hey man, a noun is coming up. So white is not him. But if he can get you to call him white, because he's not going to call himself that unless he's just stupid, some of them are just stupid, then you are right. We call people according to the land that they come from, like they called us. How many have traveled outside the United States of America? When you travel outside the United States of America, they call you an American, don't they? Get that American over there. I was in Nigeria last month. A month before that. And the police pulled us over because they saw me sitting in the back, you know. And they hustled, want to get some money. It was a Jeep, and they all got these AK-47s with their fingers on the trigger. And they told my driver, they says, you made the wrong turn. He says, oh. He says, I didn't make the wrong turn. He says, yes, you did. You giving me the eye, which means that you challenging me? He said, yeah. To make a long story short, he argued with him. He used profanity, and he says, okay, we're going to calm it down in this car. I'm sitting in the back. My driver's in the front, and my business partner's in the front. He gets in the back of the car, sitting next to me, with his hand on the trigger. And I said, I know from being there so many times, don't open your mouth. Because the moment you open your mouth and they hear you talk, oh! He's not it. Right. But he had his hand on the trigger sitting next to me, and I'm saying, oh, Allah, my God, please, don't let this man get all freaky-deaky. Because now he's telling him, you're going to go to the police station, and you're going to follow the truck while I'm sitting in the car with the rest of the police. And he's taking us the wrong way. So the driver stopped in the middle of the street, took out the key, and the road brother, he says, you taking us the wrong way, and I know what you're going to do. And I'm thinking, oh man, I'm glad you knew what you're going to do, because I don't want to die in Nigeria in the bush. And he got out the car, he went to the van, he says, he came back to the car, he says, I need 1,000 naira. That's their money, naira. Okay. 100 American dollars will get you 15,000 naira in their money. I gave him 1,000 naira. He brought it back to the policeman. Then he came back, this is the point I want to make, he came back to the car and he says, they accepted the naira, but they said they should have gave me more because I got the white man sitting in the back. They called me the white man. That offended me more than anything. They called me the white man because when I saw that man with the trigger, I did open my mouth and said, sir, do you have enough room? That was a mistake. Should have never did it. But I didn't talk like that. So anybody from America, they associate America with what they call a white man. That's their thinking. So they called me. They said, we should have got more money because you got the white man sitting in the back. So, oh no, that'd be Olga. That'd be Olga. Olga sitting in the back. Olga. Olga is them, because they speak what they call pidgin English, like the Jamaicans or Patois. Those who haven't been educated on the west coast of Africa. So Olga means match.